Good morning, y'all. It's Saturday. I'm not sure what the date is. I think it's the 30th. And happy Easter to everybody. I remember when I was a little girl, and y'all have heard me talk about my sweet little Aunt Daisy. She used to dress me up in frilly little dresses. Back then they were called Shirley Temple dresses. Y'all know who Shirley Temple was. And I was a little chunky, like Shirley Temple. But she always dressed me up for church every Sunday. And man, oh man, she pulled out all the stops on Easter. I got a new bonnet. I had little white gloves. I had a teeny little purse. I really blame my Aunt Daisy for causing me to not be a dress woman. In fact, right now, I don't even own a dress. Now, I think every woman should probably own at least one dress. But I don't. And it doesn't bother me. Now, I always loved sundresses. You know, pretty flowered dresses with not a real full skirt, but, you know, a pretty dress. I don't have any. But what I was going to talk to y'all about today is my sister. Now, my mother married her first husband, and she had two girls, Penny and Bev. Now, Penny was 7 years older than me, and my other sister, Bev, was 5 years older than me. But the story goes that my mother had taken her two girls over to their dad's, and he was living with his parents at the time and his sister. They all lived in one big house, and it was beautiful home, and old-timey Victorian, and that was in Caribou, Maine. So she had taken the girls over there to visit their dad. They were getting a divorce, and she went to pick them up, and he wouldn't let her have them. She tried to get the police involved. They were not getting in the middle of any domestic anything. So she met after her divorce, and she said she never could get the girls back. She would go over there and raise hell and blah blah blah, and she couldn't get the girls back. So then she married my dad and moved to Oklahoma. And there she had my little brother, who was 2 years younger than me. And I've talked about John Paul before. So anyway, then she divorced my dad, and she married, we went back to Maine. Then she married my stepdad, who was in the Air Force, and he got stationed in Texas when I was really little. And then from Texas to Arkansas. Now, my older sister, Penny, you can imagine, now I saw her 2 times. We went to Maine and visited with my half-sisters. And I remember one time we went, and Penny gave me this life-size walking doll. It was crazy, y'all. That doll was as big as me. Anyway, that was all I knew of my sisters. So I was living with my mom and my stepdad and my little brother, and we were in Arkansas, and we were living out in the country on a dairy farm. And gosh, except for my children, the most happiest time of my life. I loved it so much. Well, I heard my parents talking one night, and evidently my older sister had gotten married, and she hadn't graduated high school. I think she was 17, and she married this guy in the Army, and he got stationed in to Germany. So she called my mother and was asking my mom and my stepdad to send her money, and she wanted to come and live with us. So they did. So I was about, I don't know, 11 or 12. And, well, actually younger than that. Because she was 18 by the time she came to live with us. So she started high school. Now my sister was really tall. She was about, I don't know, she was at least 5'8", maybe 5'9". She was very slim. She was very pretty. She had long, straight hair all the way down to her waist. Now, I loved my sister so much. And she would always get me to roll her hair for her. Because you can imagine trying to roll hair that's down to your waist. It's not easy. And the way she would get me to do things for her was she would say, Debrajoy, I would do it for you. I must say, y'all, she never really did a lot for me. But she could always manipulate and talk me into doing things for her. Ironing her clothes. Washing her clothes. So anyway, we shared a room because we only had 3 bedrooms, and my little brother had his room, and Penny and I shared a room, and then my parents had a room. So they got my sister this, I think it was a Chevy Corvair, and it was kind of this, turquoise, kind of a faded turquoise color. Now I'm going to tell y'all, that car was a piece of crap. It used to break down on us all the time. But anyway, my sister moved back to Maine. And while she was there, well, actually, when she was still in Arkansas, she was in high school and she started doing drugs. Then she left. My parents said, you're not going to do drugs while you're living with us. Now, this is something that people who drank a lot, y'all, they drank a lot. But they were telling her she couldn't do that and she couldn't do drugs. So she left and she moved back to Maine. And while she was there, she continued her drug use. She had 2 little children. They were 14 months apart. Cutest kids ever. So she called my mother and she wanted to know, could we take care of her babies while she got herself straightened out? So of course my mother said yes. By that time, gosh, I don't know, I was probably 40 the babies. I think my nephew was, I don't know, a little over 2. So my niece was a baby. She wasn't even walking yet. So my mom worked during the day. She dropped the kids off and she went back. She was living in Pennsylvania at the time. So, Mom worked days at the time. And so, of course, she had the kids during the day. And then the second I would get off the school bus, she would go, and she was working nights. Duh! She was working nights. So she had the babies during the day. When I got home off the school bus, she would take off and go to her job. Now, she was managing a liquor store. Not a good thing, y'all, for someone with a drinking problem. But hey, it was what it was. So I had the kids. Now, my dad would get home around 6 o'clock. He was in the Air Force. And he didn't really, take care of the babies. I was an old soul, as they would say. And I had been babysitting for years. So it was nothing to me to take care of these babies. So I was dating. Just going to the movies, going out for a hamburger, that kind of thing. And I remember I had this boyfriend, and his name was Neil Jones. Tall, skinny guy, but a sweetheart. And he would call me and ask me to go to the movies or go get something to eat or take a drive, whatever. Go to the drive-in. And I would say, well, there's 3 of us. And he would say, I don't care. So I took my niece and nephew everywhere with me. And sometimes people thought they were my babies. So I did look very mature for my age. And they thought the kids were twins. They were so close in age, and they both were just tow-headed blondes, just beautiful. And I love those babies so much. They were a huge part of my life. So then my sister moved back to Arkansas, and she got a job, and she got her babies back. I think she was gone maybe a year and a half. I don't know, long enough for me to get very, very attached to them. Well, her drug use continued. But I'm going to tell you, my sister, now she might have been a little OCD herself. But we did come from a long line of women who were cleaning fanatics. So, even though my sister did drugs, she was a very good mother to her children. Her house was clean. Her children had decent clothes. They were clean. Kids got a bath every night. They had plenty of food, but she did have a drug problem. And one day, I went over for a visit, and she had the kids down for a nap. One of them in the first bedroom, and the other one in the second bedroom. And she had fans on both of them. If any of y'all live in the South, you know that during the summer, now, a lot of us, we didn't have air conditioning. We had fans. And the lucky folks had swamp coolers. But anyway, the kids were down for a nap. And she was in the kitchen. And she had one leg up on a kitchen chair. And she had a belt. I got to pull over for a minute. And she was trying to tie herself off her arm. So she could shoot herself up. She didn't have any proper drugs. She was trying to shoot herself up with wine. They lived in a older but okay duplex, and there was a little old lady that lived next door to them, and she was so sweet to the kids. But when I saw my sister doing that, you can imagine how angry I was. I mean, I had never even had a drink in my life. Nothing. Not a sip of beer. Nothing. No alcohol. No pot. Nothing. I was so upset. In my mind, I could see her passed out in a chair with a cigarette in her hand and starting a fire. And my niece and nephew would be gone. So I went home and I called CPS, Child Protective Services. And I was anonymous, but I reported her. And they went and did their little assessment, their little investigation. The kids were clean. The house was clean. They had toys. Their clothes were clean. And they had plenty of food. Now, by then, she was living with her boyfriend, who also did drugs. But he worked and provided. Well, it shook my sister up, which is exactly my intention. But bless her heart, she thought the little old lady had turned her in. And she would have never spoken to me again. And now that she's in heaven and has been there for a very long time, I know that she knows and she forgives me. She knows that I was only concerned for my niece and nephew, for her children, and for her life. Drugs are a horrible, horrible thing, y'all. Now, we spend a lot of money doing humanitarian things for other countries, and I am all for that, y'all. But I'm telling you, we've got some problems here in our own country that we need to be spending resources and money on. Drugs should not be tolerated. They should not be tolerated at all. My little brother, y'all know, was murdered. I'm sorry, y'all. This just, it's old news, but it still breaks my heart. My sister died an early death, and I think that her drug use contributed to that. Now, she did stop. I think it was sometime in her 30s. She got saved and she started going to church, and her life was totally different. But I do know that she did get back into drugs. I never really knew. It was on and off, y'all. Drug addiction is a horrible, horrible thing. You don't want to do it, but you just can't help yourself. Your body is addicted. But I could not do something if anything would have happened to any of them and I had not tried to stop it. I couldn't live with myself. And it takes a lot to turn your own sister in to Child Protective Services. I mean, they could have lost those kids. Well, they would have given them back to us. But it was a really, really hard time. And then my little brother got murdered. My own son is in prison. All because of drugs. So I think that we should focus on that problem and homelessness. There's no reason, y'all. There's no reason. Our government is so whacked out. And the priorities are so screwed up. But anyway, y'all, I didn't mean to, get all crybaby on you today. It's kind of gloomy over here in Oceanside. But it just was a part of my life. A sad part. And I would give anything, I mean really literally, I'd give anything to be able to sit down with her and have a long conversation. A very long conversation with my sister. She and I were both Pepsi people. So instead of sitting down over coffee, we would always sit down with a big glass of Pepsi. Back when they sold it in the bottle, not the can. I love y'all and I appreciate you. And I really hope that you make an effort to spend time with the people you love, because you don't ever know. But do something fun today. I'm headed over to Mary Jo's and we're going to go see a movie today. And who knows? I think we're going to go see Paul the Apostle. I think it's Paul. But it's supposed to be a really good movie and I'm looking forward to it. We've been working so much that we haven't been on our usual movie going thing. Y'all take care and I'll talk to you later.